Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Chevy Drives Chicago, the official truck partner of your Chicago Bears.
A return to division play for the first time since week 2 for the Bears. They moved to Minnesota's U.S. Bank Stadium Sunday at noon. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. We discussed today in episode 186 of the Bears Etc. podcast. This episode of Bears Etc. brought to you by ChevyDriveChicago.com, the official truck of your Chicago Bears. Coming up, an interview with Brian Hoyer, the former Bears quarterback, now working in Tom's realm, analyzing, and he's really good at it. He's based in Boston now. We'll talk to him about young quarterbacks and specifically the Bears, Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy of the Vikings, and we'll hear from Caleb Williams here after his day at the podium on Wednesday at Hallis Hall. Tom, the injury report, first of all. Tom, 8 players not able to practice on Wednesday, couple just for rest. But, this time of the season, if you get an opportunity, guys are banged up a little bit, give them a little bit of break. I expect some of these guys to be limited as the week goes on.
Yeah, but that's one thing that I admire a lot about this coaching staff is the assistant coaches here got every player prepared and ready to play. And sometimes these young guys that are not getting that many game reps should take advantage of their opportunities on Wednesdays and Thursdays if they have a chance to practice with the first unit. And I think it's really important in their development. So I understand what injury reports are at this time of year, especially when you have a long stretch of games with no off time in between. And Ben even gave them this, Monday off, and then they had off Tuesday and went back to work on Wednesday. So I think it's all important in the freshness of a football team, mentally and physically.
As you look ahead now to what begins an 8-game stretch to finish this regular season, and you get back into division play, what's one or two things that pop in your mind that right now the Bears got to really focus on and able to stay competitive and pull out more than they don't in these final 8 games?
The perfection of pass timing. And I mean, every single one of these plays, when they're called in the huddle, according to the protection that's called and the route for every receiver there, they know exactly where their feet are going to take them and where the quarterback is expecting them to be. Now, if they can repetitiously practice these plays week in and week out, then you're going to see that perfection finally begin to happen. But it's not easy. It's a difficult process when you're talking about how many people have to be on the same page in some really difficult environments or circumstances or down on distances. So I just want to see the continuous perfection in the timing of the passing offense for this football team. One of the things that has improved tremendously is the running back's confidence in the point of attack, whether it's outside zone or interior. That's really developed significantly since the first time they saw Minnesota. And then one thing I would like to see, more perfection in the timing of defensive line stunts. There was play this past weekend where the Bears ran a 3-man line stunt, and the looper, that's the guy that's being set to come around the other 2 defensive linemen. Sometimes it's just 2, sometimes it's 3. If you take a big path around your loop, you're not going to be destructive to the quarterback's process. In this one stunt that they took it slow to get around, it ended up with a completion. So I just want to see the defensive line play more efficient in their stunt game. And I think they can with a guy like Austin Booker. He's really fleet on his foot. Then you got Grady Jarrett, who's really explosive. Then you got the size of a guy like Gervon Dexter, the ability to stunt between Montez Sweat and Gervon. So I know it's coming, but as an ex-offensive lineman, that's one of the things I pay attention to when I look at teams all around the league.
As much continuity as necessary on the offensive line is the same, could impact the defensive line, not because they have a lot of new guys. You lost a couple defensive ends. Dom Robinson hasn't played in a couple weeks. Austin Booker, by the way, played 83% of the defensive snaps last week.
You know, one of the things about Austin Booker that sometimes maybe surprise all of us is his game against the run has really developed. So they brought in Austin Booker because, man, this guy's got a future of an edge pass rusher. But Austin Booker is playing better against the run than maybe we thought he was capable of. And that's why he's increasing his snaps in the short amount of time that he's been reactivated. Is he super fluid? He's a lot stronger than, maybe he was as a rookie, but his development stages are just at the beginning. I can't wait to see this guy in 3 or 4 years.
This is the underrated part of the game, the underrated numbers. No turnovers, no sacks, season low 3 penalties, no 3-and-outs for the offense last week. They also, I believe, started 5 drives inside their own 20, and they lived to tell the story. They didn't hurt them.
It's an amazing accomplishment. And that's what's expected of you out at home. And when there used to be just 16 games, I always used to say the snap count, 8 you own it, 8 you earn it. And this is different because this is going to be a game where the snap count's going to need to be earned. Because after watching some tape on the Minnesota Vikings, damn, they play a lot of 7-man lines of scrimmage. So that means you got 5 offensive linemen and a running back. Hopefully, if it's a empty backfield, then you got 5 offensive linemen. Now, how do the other pieces configure in their spaces? Whether it's tight ends, wide receivers, whomever up there is a dedicated blocker.
So you counter that with more reps for Ozzie Trapillo then if they get a 7-man.
Well, maybe I put more receivers in there to have some of these guys that you can't just let receivers go and rush 7 guys, because Caleb, he's got the elusiveness, the escapability, the speed to get out of harm's way to find those open receivers. But guys are going to have to be one-on-one blockers, and whether it's Colston, Durham, whether it's going to be Monangai or Swift or whomever, is they're going to have to really be in tune with the rhythm of this week's game.
How do you tell the cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? With the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. At the podium on Wednesday, his weekly appearance, Caleb Williams talked about a lot of things, including week 1 against Brian Flores. Expecting a lot of blitz, didn't blitz much. Week 11 could be completely different, and it ends with him staying healthy, as he has so far, as he did, knock on wood, through his first 26 games. Here's Caleb Williams.
It's something that I think we've done better with, since first game of the year. But adjusting, throughout the game, adjusting and having answers and just having open communication on the sideline, just to all be on the same page, from players to player to player to coach and things like that. So, Flo's a great D coordinator, and I'm expecting that he'll have a bunch of different wrinkles, and we got to adjust to those in those games.
I don't think there's been any coach or defensive coordinator that I've heard you talk about more than Flores.
Yeah.
Is he top of your list as far as challenging guy to go against?
Yeah, I would say he's probably one of the more challenging coaches that I've had to go against so far in my career. Obviously, I haven't played every single team yet and every single D coordinator, but up to this point, he's been that. It's all 70 plus plays that you have or so. It's a full mental. You got every single play is he's challenged you to the full mental capacity that you are and can be at, and so. This is always a fun game, going versus, Flo and his defense and, all his, players over there that he has on that side of the ball. It's like I said, it's always fun going versus, a D coordinator on a team like this.
I think it prompts you to dial in more, like what you're talking about, that just the stakes of knowing that you have to be in it every single play against them.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it prompts me to dial in more. You just understand that you have to be as close to perfect as you can. And so practice and the small details all matter. Protecting the football, the routes and the depth and the spacing and my timing and everything matters. And so just trying to emphasize that this week and trying to get our first victory in division.
Your ability to escape pressure, especially when it's coming from your blind side and it's behind you.
Yep.
Is there a way to describe kind of how you can sense oh, we got to go now, or the guy is. I mean, there were a couple of clips the other day where you're spinning kind of the back way out. Why
Yeah.
somebody's about to get you?
I don't know, maybe a sixth sense kind of thing. I have no idea. I just, in the moment, and in those times, it's, I just feel a little color or, maybe feel the tackle or, something getting edged and, just try and get out of it, make a play.
Kevin O'Connell was saying that when you're in play action or you break contain, you just admire your ability for high level of difficulty throws. He said he even rewatches some of your incompletions just because of the level of difficulty. Is that something that's always been there for you or something you've honed?
What part? Like just the high level?
Yes.
I think it's something that I've worked on over my career. I think I've been able to work on those things for many years before it became such a big emphasis, I guess, in my game that everybody always talks about. But I think those get all the credit and things like that, and some of the smaller plays that I make don't. And so I've just been trying to hone in and work on my craft to be able to complete every single ball whenever it's needed to be able to help my guys win.
Caleb, at this point last year, you had taken 38 sacks, and you cut that number down by more than half. Like, how significant is that?
Yeah, it's huge. Partly, part of it is the guys I got up front. They've been awesome for me and for us, and so kudos to them and love those guys up front. And then the other half of it is, I think coaches' emphasis on me getting the ball out, and then when it's time to go make a play, make the plays, and it's time to throw it away. And so I think just doing a better job with that overall this year, and I got to keep getting better with that and try and lower the sacks.
Just one quick follow-up on that. Ben said earlier, he's like sometimes just training you to stay in there like a tick longer to be able to make the big play. How do you train yourself to do that?
Yeah, it's interesting because you get just kind of the whole process is like, let's get the ball out faster. Let's get through the reads, and sometimes I get through my reads actually too fast. Maybe because of leverage, or maybe because the covers that I'm seeing, and sometimes you just need to hang on. We got special guys, and so sometimes you need to hang on it and let it rip, and then other times it's there was a play that I actually avoided a sack, but I could have thrown a touchdown this past game, and it's those small things. It's like just the big plays right there. I saw it, and I was about to rip it, and I just saw color flash. He was running right at me, and I tried to get out of it, got out of it, and threw in completion. But it's those things that the next level, and something that I talk about with Coach all the time is that's the next level. Is I do have this ability to get out of stuff, but also there's gonna be times where it's just gonna drop back and let's deliver a ball, and I've done it every so often or whatever. But just doing that more often, and just finding the balance is tough. But that's what we're searching for.
Is that the ball that DJ, by the way? The one you're talking about?
The one I.
Where you scrambled when you had a touchdown, and was that?
No. Well, that's one of them. 97, and then there was one more roam down the middle of the field towards midfield, and 90-something came free on the right side, and I end up just moving and evading and getting out of it.
The increase in your rushing yards the past several weeks, is that just coincidence and opportunities, or did you make a conscious decision at some point that you were going to go and do a little bit more? If so, why did you make that?
I think it's been on my mind to be able to help the team in any way possible, and so it was space and opportunity within the game, but there are some times where it's like a play needs to be made or a spark needs to happen, and I think I have all the ability between arm and legs to be able to make it happen, and so whatever comes available first, whether it's a run or whether it's a pass, I feel that I'm there to help out and try and help the team win and stay on track or create a spark.
Caleb, your numbers, your production in the last 5 minutes of games is among the best in the league. The other 55 minutes is not where you want it to be. Respectfully, just to try to understand better, why can't you do that all the time? Why can't you play like the last 5 minutes of the whole game? What can you take from that and extrapolate to the entirety of the game?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's something that we want to get down, and I think it's I think it's not only just from my side of it, it's just everybody understanding the what we can be on offense, and we can score fast, we can march down and score in 13 play drives and things like that, and just being able to do that and be efficient instead of having some 3 and outs or anything like that. We got some special talent on our side of the ball on offense, and I think there's times where we can just be better overall, and then towards the end of the game, it's time to go in the game, and you just kind of get into that mode, and like I've said before, defenses have kind of shown you throughout the whole game of what they've kind of game plan for you, and so you get into a rhythm, you get into a flow towards the end of the game, and the mindset changes. I would say just in the sense of we have no other option at that point other than try and score and fight and fight and fight, and I think that's what we do and what we've done, and we do want to showcase, and I want to showcase throughout the whole game that we can play all 60 minutes, and we can put up points, and defense can hold their offense, and we can we kind of start kind of steamrolling. But until that happens, we're going to keep winning games, whichever way we need.
So do you think in those last 5 minutes that you may be a little faster, a little more decisive, less inhibited because it's like I said, do or die?
Yeah, I think anytime somebody goes into the fight or flight mode, and you just kind of start flying, you get into a mode, and you don't feel anything. Like I said, you're flying at that moment, and you got to go do it. And so you go into kind of the survival mode, and I think I wouldn't say that I get faster or I get more decisive, anything like that. I think it just comes down to we got to win a ball game, and here we go.
Caleb, I'm curious, when you have these plays where like maybe you skip a read or you don't hit your check down, but you still turn it into like a very positive play with your legs or whatever. For example, I'm thinking of like your 29-yard scramble down to the 1 yard line. Mm-hmm. It looked like your check down may have been open. I'm just curious, like how is that viewed in the quarterback room with your coaches when you guys are reviewing that? Is that a positive play? Is that a negative play? Because obviously it still turned into something really good at the end.
Yeah, I'm also an athlete in the field. I would like to put myself up there with some of the best athletes on the field at the time of all 22 people, all 21 other than myself on the field. And so, I think the progression of my game will become better. And I think part of that is, getting through reads fast and finding a check down. I did it a couple times last game. And then there was times where I felt the pocket collapse or, on that 120-yard scramble, you feel the whole offensive line and D-line get squished in there, and you feel a bunch of space, and it's man coverage, and you go take off and try and make a play for the team in that moment.
Some of those opportunities you had to run, like your rushing touchdown, stuff like that, how many of those are actually built into the play? Like how I
don't have many, actually. There aren't many design runs for me. I'm more of a throwing cue. I just so happen that I can run, and when the time comes that they open up a gap or there's space available for me, I understand that my legs can be a spark or my legs can be a threat, and I also know that D coordinators hate that because they typically account for all other 10 players on the field, and the QB is typically one that just drop backs and throws a rock around.
JJ was in your class.
Yep.
I mean, he's because of injuries played 4 games.
Yep.
Do you have an appreciation for just your ability to go out there and kind of get every rep? I don't think you missed a single snap because of injury.
No.
Did you have an appreciation for kind of how difficult that is for you, and sympathy for somebody who's been banged up the way you guys?
For myself, I would say it's one of the most important things to being an athlete, to being to trying to be a star in this league is actually being able to be out there. And so for myself, I take a lot of pride in many different avenues of recovery for myself, and so that I can be ready for my guys. Because as they always say, I think the saying goes, the best ability is availability. And so me being able to, be ready for Wednesday practice, Thursday practice, and so on and so forth to get to Sunday or whatever day the game is really important to me. So if that means I need to get to sleep earlier in the week and throughout the week, if that needs, more body work throughout, always adapting to whatever I'm feeling and understand that's really important. And then I wouldn't necessarily say that I have any kind of sympathy or anything like that. It's a part of our job. Injuries happen, but it's also a part of our job that we make sure that we take care of ourselves, whether it's sleep or whether it's recovery and things like that. So that's kind of how I think about it, kind of how I feel about it, and it's really important for me to be able to be out there. And I really think that I can help my team, and I help my team win games, and so it's really important for me to be out there.
Appreciate that he's been able to capitalize on opportunities in the final 5 minutes of games, Tom. His resolve reflects the resolve of the entire football team, but I think the defense probably plays a little harder when they have the trust that Caleb's going to help bring us back, especially he's done it now twice in a row and 4 times overall this year.
Yeah, one of the questions he was asked, 55 minutes, is sometimes maybe not as efficient as the last 5 minutes. So how do you get that last 5 minutes into the 55 minutes? And I think when you're in a position where you can win the game and then you increase that sense of urgency, that's when Caleb's playing on an all-time high level. And yeah, everybody that's on that coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball, they want to see them get a bigger lead. So they're not going to, you can't use the word relax during the course of a football game. The tempo may be a little different, but you still have the same sense of urgency to finish the game on it with a win. And so what Caleb's been able to do in the last couple games, I admire the heck out of him for being able to do it.
Kick off your game day with Blue Moon. Blue Moon, made brighter and a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. And hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffel is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears as well. This Bears season, Steinhoffel partners with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffel will donate $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in store and online at steinhoffels.com. His name is Brian Hoyer, a veteran NFL quarterback, plenty of starts, 15 years overall, most of it as a backup, 8 of those in New England on separate appearances there 3 different times, and 42 starts, including with the Bears in 2016 under John Fox. He had a magical run in 2014 with the Cleveland Browns, winning 4 one-score games with fourth-quarter game-winning drives. He's played for a lot of great coaches and a lot of great offensive minds, and now he analyzes in the broadcast media space Patriots preseason games, co-host of the Quick Snap podcast with another former Patriot, David Andrews, but he's all things NFL, and he's been watching the Bears and Ben Johnson. Here's our interview, something I just learned. And Brian, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. I know you're busy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
AKA, Tommy, Axel Edward Brian Hoyer.
My dad's Axel Edward. My mom, I was the firstborn, and I think she wanted to name the first boy Brian. And so there was a compromise, Axel Edward Brian, but I always went by Brian. So now that I'm older, I'm like, God, Axel is such a cool name that I wish I would have been called that, but I've never, I remember being like in first and second grade and, they'd do roll call and it would be off of your legal name and it would be Axel. Everyone would kind of laugh like, who's Axel? You know what I mean? And I was very ashamed of it. So now I love it. And honestly, it was a great secret for a long time until my teammate Matthew Slater outed me towards the end of my career with the Patriots media. And so now, enough people know about it.
I just found it on Pro Football Reference just for some fact check. And I'm like, wait, is this what? But it's kind of cool. I reached out because I heard you on SiriusXM and have for a while here since you started doing the media side of things. And you do a heck of a job.
Thank you.
Your knowledge of the entire league. I know you're kind of laser focused, I believe, still on the Patriots to do a podcast with your former teammate David Andrews. Is that correct?
David Andrews, the Quick Snap. We actually, big day for us today. We had John Gruden on as a guest, which was unbelievable. So even if you're not a Patriots fan, you may want to check that out just because Gruden was so energetic and people get to see him now with Barstool, but he was incredible. So
John Gruden, his father, Jim Gruden, was the running backs coach when I went to Notre Dame. So I got to know those guys, Jay and John and stuff, when they were young kids and I was playing at Notre Dame. So a couple nonsense questions for you, because when I read about you, it interests me. Do you have a jersey from every team you played for?
I do. I have multiple. I was actually just going through the other day, found all my Bears jerseys, the throwback one that we beat the Lions in, the blue with the orange stripes, the blue helmet, gray face mask. That's my favorite one.
So you wore 5 different numbers. Do you have a favorite number?
7 was always my number. It's what I wore in high school. It's what I wore at Michigan State, but I wasn't able to get it until I went to the Houston Texans, which was my 4th team. So I wasn't going to pay for a number. I mean, I thought that was just ridiculous. So 7 was always my number. It just happened to be the one I kind of wore the least, actually, in the NFL.
Okay, as a free agent, why did you pick New England?
You're gonna love this. My agent, who actually I got connected through another former Chicago Bears quarterback, Jim Miller, who I'm sure you guys are familiar with. We shared the same agent, and I don't get drafted. And my agent, Joe Linta, calls me up. He goes, "I think you should go to New England." I said, "Are you nuts? They got Brady. They just drafted Kevin O'Connell in the 3rd round last year, and they have Matt Gutierrez, who's been there forever." And he said, "Look, I know we've only known each other for about 5 or 6 months, but I know Bill Belichick really well. I know Nick Caserio. They really like you, and I think you'll have a chance to, at the worst case, make the practice squad." And honestly, it was the best decision that I ever made.
I think I read something where you were quizzing Brady as much as you can because you're a thirst for knowledge, and he gave you a 3-question limit. Is that right?
No. So it's funny story. I've told this story. So for me, actually, I was kind of like the fly on the wall. I didn't speak unless spoken to. It was funny. Bill O'Brien was our offensive coordinator that year, and late in that season, we usually had these meetings on Saturday nights before the team meeting at the hotel. And before we were going to leave, Billy said, "What time are we meeting tonight?" I said, "I don't know." He goes, "Why don't you text Tom and find out what time we're going to meet?" I said, "Text Tom? I don't have his number. I'm not asking for his number. I'm not going to bother him." And so that's how I got Tom Brady's phone number. But there was a kid, a quarterback, Jonathan Crompton, out of University of Tennessee, who was in our quarterback room at some point. And he was like a sweetest kid, Southern boy, very, "how you doing today? And he asked a lot of questions. And finally, Tom said, "All right, Cromp, you get 3 questions a day." And John, he was like, "Okay, great." So the next day he comes in, he goes, "Hey, Tom, how you doing today?" And Tom goes, "That's 1."
Good stuff. Only in the Brady way I can hear that right now.
Not in a harmful way. It was more like, listen, we only got so much time in these meetings. Like, we got to get to what we're installing or what we're covering or watching the film. And so, I mean, you asked what I learned in New England. Literally, a graduate degree in all football, not just offense. And obviously being in the room with Tom Brady every day was phenomenal. As I mentioned before, Bill O'Brien, learning from him, but also just Bill Belichick as a head coach. Every day you went into that team meeting, you were learning something. He was coaching everyone. It didn't matter if he was talking to the defense, the offense was in the room listening, special teams, all of those things. So, to have my first 4 years be in New England, I don't know if I make it 15 years if I don't have those lessons and take them with me.
The crazy.
Brian, so when we got Caleb Williams here, obviously, and the difficulty of mastering the terminology at the quarterback position. So you've done it with a team that you were there for 4 years, and then you did it with teams that you were, employed by in a short amount of time. What's a realistic amount of time for a quarterback to master the terminology if they're lucky enough to be in it for a few years? And then what is the same time frame for a guy that's kind of may transfer from one team to the next, like Joe Flacco, for example?
Right. So the one thing for me with my career, I played in every offensive system. But the one thing that I would say is I had stability early in my career. I learned the New England Patriots offense for the first 4 years of my career. And what that allowed me to do was have a good understanding of offensive football. And when I first went from New England, the next team that I really played with was the Cleveland Browns under North Turner, which was entirely different terminology. But the plays, if you draw them up on the paper, the plays are very similar. It's just how you call them. And because I had those 4 years of a foundation in the New England system, I had something to translate it and relate it back to. And so I look at a guy like Caleb, one system last year, a new system this year. What is his foundation? And hopefully now with Ben Johnson there, this will become the foundation for his learning of offensive football, of the terminology, and hopefully, obviously, for Bears fans and the NFL in general, like you hope this is a long-term duo and they can continue to build on it, right? Because each year you feel a little more comfortable and you feel a little more comfortable. And then you get to the point where you've had enough continuity and now you can start building, right? The one thing I always tell people, they ask me obviously a lot about New England. What was the difference? Well, when you have the stability at the head coach position and the quarterback position, it's a trickle-down effect, right? So when you start OTA 1 in 2017 for the New England Patriots, you're not installing your base system. You are the guys who are coming in, whether it's rookies, free agents, they got to catch up to the guys who've been there. And so literally we would start in the red area on OTA 1, whereas most teams, I'm sure Ben Johnson this year, installing a new system, OTA 1 is literally just the building blocks of what he wants to do. And so each year you can stack, the more you can grow, and then you get an advantage on the teams that are maybe having to reinstall things. So it's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but continuity to me, and it's something that our game is lacking because we want results right now, right? And people get fired after 1 year, quarterbacks get moved on from. That's why you're seeing a resurgence of a Sam Darnold, of a Daniel Jones, of a Baker Mayfield, of guys who maybe were cast aside, and now they find themselves in a good, stable landing spot. They're able to produce, and now they're like, oh, well, that's, of course, they were a first-round pick, but, somewhere along the line, it got too difficult for them.
A perfect question for you because of your experience with New England. Who's got more pressure on them, first pick in the draft or free agent?
Oh, man, I think first pick in the draft. I honestly do, because when you walk across that stage and you're the first pick, the entire hopes and dreams of the organization, especially if you're a quarterback, right? They're on your shoulders from day one. And so Caleb Williams, that's the expectation for him. And look, Caleb played really well in the beginning of last year. And I know the wheels fell off there, the way the season ended. But that's a lot of learning experience, right? We're seeing the same thing here in New England with Drake May. Obviously a coaching change going into his second year. Now, I'm going to be biased. I think Josh McDaniels is the best offensive coordinator in all of football. And so for him to be able to be paired with Drake, it's been such a blessing for Drake May to learn football with Josh McDaniels. And I would say when you look at Caleb, to be able to get Ben Johnson, who's there with him every single day, who's talking over offensive football, who's talking about defenses, you can see the progression in Caleb's game. And then the one thing that's always a toss-up is what does he do when he gets outside of the pocket, right? He can extend plays, make crazy. I mean, the throw to Moore and I know he didn't catch it. Oh, yeah. I don't know if anyone else in the league can make that throw. It's just to full speed, throw 45 yards on a rope to the corner of the end zone. It's ridiculous. And so, I think for Caleb, he's in a great situation with a very good offensive minded coach. He's just got to take it and continue to grow with it. And then when things aren't there, and Ben Johnson's talked about this, like, I don't have to call the perfect play anymore, right? I have a guy who can extend the play. You just got to make sure that when you do that, you protect the football.
Yeah, and he definitely protects the football, that's for sure. But you hit a couple things that didn't occur to me. When you go into a system that has been there for a long time, it's on you to learn all of that from the beginning. That's right. A lot, because they're in a different. Yeah. They're now in grad school. They're getting their doctorate, and you're coming in undergrad first day of class. But how hard was it then, though? I know you say you had that base knowledge and the plays are similar, but you go to Arizona, Cleveland, Houston, Chicago, San Francisco, back to New England, then to Indy, back to New England, then in 23 with the Raiders. That's the life of a backup quarterback for the most part of much of your career. But did you ever just get overwhelmed?
Honestly, the West Coast system was the one that was overwhelming because it was the wordiest. It was they wanted to make it easier on the skill players in the offensive line, which made it then harder on the quarterback to call the play because you were basically calling everybody's responsibility somewhere along the way. I mean, 20 to 25 word play calls. Honestly, what the greatest stretch of my career was in Chicago, and that was playing for Dal Loggins, who was a guy who coached me as a quarterback coach in Cleveland, but also had some influence from Adam Gase, which is, Adams kind of comes from that Patriot system. And Dal had kind of blended the two together. And for me, for whatever reason, and Dal was great because he was very open to, when I was able to take over that starting role, was very open to my ideas and what I wanted to have the game plan be. And we would sit there and come up with game plans together. And there was never a play he called that I wasn't comfortable with. And I think that's a big thing that goes into it too. As a young player, you want to make everything work. You want everything to be a good play for you. And the reality is there's certain plays that you just don't like. And for me, I had the confidence and the comfortability with Dow to be like, hey, Dow, I don't like this play this week. Like, can we replace it with this? And he was awesome. It was incredible. It was a great working relationship. And the terminology was a blend of systems that I had been in. So you kind of just put 2 and 2 together and you go with it. But ultimately, you're the new guy coming in. You have to learn it. You have to adapt. And that takes hours. I mean, I would do flashcards with my wife, formations, route concepts, all of those things. And it's kind of like learning a foreign language, right? You have to do it. You can't just study it. You have to eventually go out and do it. And then it kind of clicks in your memory and you got it. And then you move on to the next one.
You lived in a space Caleb's living in right now with come from behind wins in the fourth quarter. You had a stretch in Cleveland that was magical in 2014. You had games 2, 8, 11, won 4 one-score games with fourth quarter game-winning drives, which Caleb has already done this season. Do you, in those moments, as you stack them, the level of confidence from your teammates in you, your coaching staff in you, and then your own, is it reach a level that you feel almost insurmountable?
Yeah, I think, look, the name of the game, especially at the quarterback position, is confidence, self-confidence. And confidence comes from preparation and then execution. So you can prepare all you want, but if you don't have the results, it's kind of false hope, right? But when you prepare and then you have the execution and you pair it and you stack those together, now when that moment comes up, you're like, all right, I want the ball. I'm ready to do it. And you saw it last week, obviously not just with his arm, but with his legs. And so, look, he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. Like I said, the throw wasn't even a completion, and I'm watching, I'm like, oh my God, like not many guys can do that. And just in general, when he throws the football, it pops off of his hand. And so it's just a process of getting better and learning from Ben. And now you've got a good group of skill players around him. You got a Dunze, and you got Burden, and they drafted Loveland. Like, you can see the blueprint that Ben Johnson's taking from Detroit, right, and now bringing it to Chicago. And so, they did a lot to invest in the offensive line in the offseason. They understand they have a talented young quarterback. Ben believes that he can get the most out of them, and they're investing in the players around him as well.
The learning curve for a quarterback. When I was with the Bears and they drafted Jim Harbaugh, I remember Jim Harbaugh sitting downstairs by himself, memorizing the Wednesday front play sheet, then the Thursday pass installation, then Friday short yardage and goal line. But the memorization process to watch him go through was almost painful. And then they speed it up, and then they get to the terminology isn't any easier, but you have the microphone in your helmet. So when you think about the microphone in your helmet, the wristband these guys wear, is there a happy medium between learning the system, or is everything at your disposal? Use it if you have to. And if you do have a wristband, do you learn the stuff as well as you need to if you didn't know exactly what you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, the wristband for me was for those longer play calls. You have 2 plays in the huddle. It's long. You're on the road. You can't hear. Sometimes it was easier for the coach to say wristband 47. Okay, let me find it. I actually prefer to kind of speak while the offense coordinator was speaking. So almost like, hear it, say it, the whole play call. And the more comfortable you became with the system, the easier that was, because sometimes you'd say something like, what did I just say? But then when you got to a level of really understanding the system and knowing it, it was almost like a second nature. Like you were almost like a mime, right? Like you were saying what you were hearing. And then as soon as you hit clap, like, not exactly sure what I just said, but I know it. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but there was times where you just rattled off the play without thinking what you were saying, and you knew what to do. And so that's, there's different ways to do it. Some guys like to listen to the whole play call, then step in the huddle. I found that was too much to have to repeat. I'd rather talk while the coordinator was talking in my helmet. And ultimately the wristband was for longer play calls when you wanted to save time, or in the event that the helmet went out, you could just look over the sideline. They could write 47 on a board. You knew, okay, I'm going to go to 47. So,
all right, let me do an exercise quick. Tom and Brian, if you simply power O, what would be your call, Tom, in the huddle? And then Brian, give me the same.
Power O.
Ours would be a 49 EO, which means backside lineman pull into the front side, 49 EO.
Brian?
Yeah, we had, different systems where I right, jab 28 power, or you could go near right, cobra. I mean, that's the thing you got to understand. Some teams like to use numbers, that like the system of 2-back, 8-hole, 2-back, 4-hole, whatever that might be. A lot of teams have gone to code words. So you would have an R word to the right, an L word to the left. So we had cobra, and I believe this is going to not be a good example because it wasn't an L, but it was python. Cobra to the right, python to the left, or badger to the right, bull to the left. And so, that's part of the intricacies of learning a system. Obviously, we all, as a kid, you probably learn the run game with the numbers, and then you realize some coordinators, they want to keep the numbers. Some of them want to use code words, so that way when you're on the ball at the line of scrimmage, you could say, hey, easy, cobra. That means everybody knows we're running power to the right.
All right, so we got the Minnesota Vikings for the Bears this week. They dig into the conference now in the division. Kevin O'Connell does a great job with quarterbacks. He's got J.J. McCarthy right now off of injury, back and working back into his preseason readiness. What are you seeing from them right now from your scouting eye?
Yeah, I mean, just up and down, right? J.J. McCarthy, the first game of the season, he goes to play the Bears, 3 quarters, doesn't look great. All he does is go out in the fourth quarter and have pretty much the quarter of his life and come back and win the game. And then a few weeks ago, go into Detroit, beat Detroit, had a lot of big time plays. And then last week, just doesn't look comfortable, right? There was some good throws where he got the ball to Hawkinson or Addison or, even Jalen Naylor, but there's a lot of times, especially throwing to Justin Jefferson, it looks very forced. And so I would expect that the Bears try to make sure that they have different looks to give him, disguise the looks, make him read the play after, because the one thing I would say about McCarthy is when he holds the ball, good things don't end up happening, right? I think you see him double clutch and everything wants to be, let me fire it into a spot, and it doesn't work out. And that's where you end up getting those turnovers. And then when you go to the flip side, I know Brian Flores from my time here in New England, that defense is hard to handle, right? And so that's going to be, to me, the matchup of the game is Brian Flores against Ben Johnson, and it's going to be a chess match because B-Flow does such a good job of exotic looks, pressure looks, then people are dropping out. All of a sudden now here, they're all blitzing from one side. And so for Caleb, he's going to have to be so aware of when he gets a blitz look, he's got to see which guys are dropping out. We would always say when you're going against B-Flow in practice, if you have a blitz, you have to be so careful about throwing the ball over the middle of the field because somewhere, somehow, someone's popping out. Is it Van Ginkel? Is it those guys, those Swiss Army knife players that the Vikings have? And so I think that'll be the matchup that really determines the outcome of this game.
When you look at the divisions around all the NFL, AFC, NFC, the NFC North has gained a lot of respect, with what Detroit is doing, what Green Bay is capable of doing, the emergence of the Bears and New England or Minnesota and stuff. Do you have a feeling of the toughest division in the NFL right now, or, how do you see it?
No, I think you're right. I think the NFC North and the AFC West are probably the top two, right? You mentioned those teams, and I think, last year in particular, that NFC North when the Vikings had Sam Darnold, and I'm wondering if they're questioning that decision now to just let him walk, right? When you see him playing the way that he's playing up in Seattle, but I think in the North, you mentioned it, you got the resurgence of the Bears, you got Green Bay, and you got Detroit. And the Vikings are kind of lingering there. Like, what are they going to do? And really it's on JJ. And then when you look at the AFC West, I mean, it's possible the Chiefs may be a wild card team, as crazy as that sounds, because that Broncos defense looks incredible right now. The Chargers look really good. The one thing with the Chargers is how long can that offensive line hold up to protect Justin Herbert? It was probably so crucial that they beat the Chiefs in week 1. So those to me are got to be. And then look, the NFC West has kind of always been one of those ones that's, how's it going to go? And you watched the Rams last week, and I think they could be the best team in football. And then you look at the Seahawks, and, they're all the way out there in the Pacific Northwest. We don't get to see them a lot, but Sam Darnold is playing incredible. And so, I think that's another division that has 2 really strong teams.
The chess game of these bright young minds to veteran coaches. How does that impact the overall competitive nature of this division? You got some really brilliant minds. And then what is your opinion of Ben and how he has gone about his career?
I've always admired Ben, and a lot of times you got to remember this in the NFL. No one's reinventing the wheel. And so, what's the biggest thing you do on Tuesdays? You go around the league and watch what other people are doing, and you take ideas. Okay, can we incorporate that? And you've seen that for years in Detroit, right? I think, wasn't it last year he did like the little fake fumble and threw it up to the seam to the tight end? He stole that play from us. I ran that at Michigan State a long time ago. I'm going to take credit for that. We faked a fumbled snap, and I hit Kellen Davis up the seam for a touchdown, former Bear. But no, I think you see how innovative he is and how sound his offenses are. I think that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of marrying of the run and the play action, and when you can get those things going, it's a very hard offense to stop. But you hit it on the head. Why are those divisions we just talked about so tough? We got to start with the head coaches, right? And so, in the North, you got O'Connell and you got Ben Johnson, you got LaFleur, and you got Dan Campbell. I mean, these are four of the top coaches in the league, at least in the past several years. And then when you go out west, you got Andy Reid, you got Sean Payton, you got Harbaugh. And look, ultimately, I know it's been a down year for the Raiders, but Pete Carroll's a great coach too. And so when you have that guy in place, and then you compare those guys with a good quarterback, I mean, you're always going to have a chance. And so I think that's what you see with a lot of those teams.
So one more question for me, Brian. So you look at Ben Johnson, you look at the Bears. 2 weeks ago, double reverse pass touchdown from DJ Moore to Caleb. And then he inserts Tyson Bagent, lines him up as a wide receiver, lateral pass, throwback. And so Jeff has called these designer plays, where in my era, they are always trick plays. But we're seeing them a lot more in college and in the NFL. What title would you give them when you look back at your career to where these plays are inserted now?
Yeah, we would call them our exotic package. We would have a package, and I'm kind of referencing most of my time with Josh, and there would be a little part on the call sheet, and I'm sure Ben's the same way. He seems to really enjoy them. I mean, I think those are something that if you feel confident, if you can rep it in practice a few times and feel good about it, I mean, there's no reason that you shouldn't incorporate those. You should always make the defense be on their heels. And so I love it, especially when they can be executed really well. And ultimately, when a coach calls one of those plays, if something were to go wrong, I mean, you look at back, what was that against the Cowboys, the flea flicker, right? I mean, what an insane throw by Caleb. But I think to me, what that shows is Ben has confidence in his players that you scheme this play up. It's supposed to be a trick play or an exotic play or a designer play. But if things don't go the way you planned, are they going to make smart decisions with the football? And so every time they go out and execute it, even if it's not maybe how the results you wanted because you don't hit the reverse or you don't hit the throwback pass, if they take care of the football, it gives that coach a little more confidence to call it the next time.
I also think, and this is the interesting angle to it, because they're not, I think it's disingenuous to call them anything other than something like I just said, a designer play, because these are real football plays that they believe are going to work. But it also, he's engaging the entire roster.
Sure.
Guys that Bagent, if Caleb stays healthy all year, you lived in that space too, right? Yeah, he's wetting the beak of everybody.
Sure.
And he's getting everybody involved, keeps everybody
I think the one thing is as long as you're not doing them out of desperation, if they're part of your game plan, then I think that's a real play.
Yeah.
Josh was famous. We had one where you'd throw a lateral screen to the front side, and then that receiver would throw it all the way back across the field to the halfback. I've seen Ben use the play before. And to me, we had such confidence in the guys who were going to touch the football on that play, whether it was Edelman, whether it was James White, whatever that might be. If you have the confidence in the players, it really is just a normal play. You're just cooking it up a little bit differently than maybe like a base run. And ultimately, those plays can give you that extra edge to get over the top sometimes.
Were you KOC's roommate?
No, I wasn't his roommate. No, but that was, you asked how I got to New England. End up, going in there competing and end up being the man behind Brady, but always had a great relationship with Kevin. It's been awesome to see him rise through the ranks of coaching and do what he's doing now. He's one of the best in my opinion. And one of the coolest things now that I'm not playing anymore that I love to see is the post-game locker room scenes. And you always get a lot of great clips, whether it's in Chicago, whether it's in Minnesota with Kevin and how he addressed the team, up here in New England. Vrabel has been incredible. And obviously we've all seen Dan Campbell. So there are some good things to social media and being able to get to peek behind the curtain a little bit.
Tom will disagree with you on that. There are, in his world, that social.
Listen, the only thing I miss about football is post-game celebrations after a win. All the other social part of it. Anyway. While we're on here, I just get a message. Gardner Johnson had Jeff Joniak going crazy for the Chicago Bears. So, and I don't have, so it was sent to me.
Oh, okay.
So now I got to see how crazy.
Yeah. CD Deuce. What an addition, right? He was starts in Houston, goes to Baltimore, and then he's out there making plays for the Bears last week. And so it just goes to show you the NFL, the parity in this league is why we love it so much, right? Anybody can win any given Sunday. A guy can go from one team to the next team, and all of a sudden he's the hero. So I've enjoyed it. I miss playing. I miss being around the guys. But now covering the league, I get to see it more as a whole, and it's been a lot of fun.
Appreciate you, Brian. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Tom, I forgot to mention, with Brian, he was born a few months before you guys won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I saw that.
But Michigan State's Brian Hoyer, wonderful insight from another. We're getting lucky with the Hall of Fame quarterbacks of the past and the newer guys that are entering the analysis stage. They have so much knowledge to offer. I really appreciated his context.
Well, they're lucky we asked him to be on our podcast. I think that's where the luck begins. However, I felt smarter after I got off the last two podcasts. Well, actually the last three, with Ken Anderson, with Phil Simms, now Brian Hoyer. And I feel that you can ask questions with as much history as we have in the game that can make us smarter and help us look at things differently. So I really appreciated Brian Hoyer this past week, just like I have all the other guys that come on here, and it was a lot of fun to learn.
Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through this season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. Wanted to touch on Brian Flores again, Tom. Again, he didn't blitz the Bears much. We all were kind of surprised at that, but who knows what he's got waiting. So I went and dug deep. So far this season, Minnesota blitzes on, this is just for pass plays, it's not run blitzes, 44.9% of the time on first down. 46.7% of the time on second down, and they have 6 sacks in that realm. Do you think they'll alter this, or will they take the same kind of game plan that they had? They did win that game. It was a defensive comeback, an offensive comeback led by J.J. McCarthy. But what do you suspect Brian Flores has up his sleeve if you were an offensive player getting ready to face that defense?
To me, I always think that Brian Flores, the blitzer first, regardless of what he did the week one. And I think maybe that could be saying, let's throw more bodies into the passing lanes to see if Caleb will throw us one. And he didn't. And, at the end of the game, Minnesota capitalized on an offensive performance. But to me, it's always, what type of environment are you playing? Well, Brian Flores, does he have different numbers at home than he does on the road? And so that would be the only thing that would make me nervous, is because the sound is going to be deafening. It's a division game, and Minnesota's not going to sell a lot of their tickets to Bears fans. So it's going to be super difficult to communicate from the huddle to the line of scrimmage. And if you can slow them down early, then maybe you take Brian out of some blitzes. If he sees that you're susceptible to pressure, and then he's just going to keep adding on to them.
The Bears blitz quite a bit on second down as well. What's the reason for that? For both, is just to get you in third and long?
Well, they have deployable assets. You look at Tremaine Edmonds can blitz, TJ Edwards and Noah Sewell can blitz. When you look at whether you have CJ Gardner or Kyler Murray, they're both blitzable. So is Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker. So just like when you look at the blitzes for the Minnesota Vikings, you have the linebackers are blitzable. You have a couple defensive backs that are blitzable. So it's not all about the defensive linemen, but how can you put yourself yourself in a winning position to put pressure on the quarterback. It necessarily doesn't have to result in a sack, but if they speed up the thinking process of the quarterback, with J.J. McCarthy being young and Caleb being in the first year of his system, there's a lot of exploratory pressure that you have to go through to see where they're at in terms of their career.
Gosh, football fans have got used to like third down is when people bring the pressure, but now it's every down. But
they throw every down now.
Yeah.
It's not just a third down, run the ball first and second down, throw it third.
Any thought on JJ as he gets ready for this matchup at home? Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison didn't play in the first game. Neither did C.J. Ham. He's available. Naylor had a good game last week. Hawkinson hasn't been targeted very often lately. What are we looking at here? Aaron Jones has had a great career against the Bears. I think he's lost one game in 17.
Yeah, to me, J.J. McCarthy looks at when they have the intentions to throw and play action pass, he's going to throw it to exactly he's supposed to throw it to. It's not where he's reading the field. You look at the first play of the game last week, they ran play action, and he threw it to Aaron Jones. But the wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, was wide open downfield. So I think he's got some predetermined decisions that he's making before the snap of the ball. But if you are going to blitz him, you better get him because he's very elusive. He can duck under attempted tackles. He can run away from tackles. He's a good athlete. He's got really good disciplined feet inside the pocket. So he is got the kind of the traits of the reason they picked him so high. So if you're that CJ Gardner like last week when he had an opportunity to blitz against Jackson Dart, he didn't give him a chance to react. The sack that Montez Sweat got against Russell Wilson, he didn't give him a chance to be in control of Montez Sweat. But when you have a chance to hit J.J. McCarthy, you got to be under control.
All right. How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? With the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card would get you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. That's going to wrap us up. Join us on Bears Weekly on Thursday night. We'll have plenty of special guests and good insight from Tom Thayer's tape watching and his Tom's Thoughts, always in the last segment. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now to the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.